Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. We're back again on the racing front, and it's another anti-post pointers video. And these have been going down really well. We've had some really nice feedback on our previous anti-post videos, including our 2000 and 1000 guineas videos back at the start of the year that seemed to do really well. The Oaks and Derby videos were popular. Our Royal Ascot early preview is up right now, and the views and comments and opinions are rolling in, so do check that one out after this one. But today our focus is the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, which is a very well-known race. I'm sure you're all very aware of it. The richest race in Europe and probably the most prestigious too, to be fair. It's without doubt the premier end-of-season showpiece of the flat season. It's run at Paris Longchamp after, I believe, there was a detour from Longchamp for a little while. So am I right in saying that?
Yeah, recent redevelopment of Longchamp. It looks fabulous now. I've not been yet. I do have tickets for this year. It was at Chantilly for 2 years, I believe.
Yeah, Chantilly, of course, that's where it was. But yeah, back at Longchamp now. It's ran on the first Sunday in October, and more often than not, it crowns the champion European thoroughbred. So it's open to all horses aged 3 or older. So we often get these fascinating clashes between classic winners from the UK, Ireland, and France, along with the top older horses too. So it's always a fascinating market, and we're going to be taking our early look. So this is correct as of the 8th of June. So plenty of time for these markets to move a lot. And as we're going to discuss, a few questionable names at the top of the market that may well not even run. So a good time to be taking a look, I think. But yeah, with the Derby and the Oaks contenders winners recently crowned, I think it's a perfect time to take our first look. And Smido, without his flat cap, I notice, he's bang up for it. Where's the cap gone?
Well, I've had a bit of feedback really, and people saying, "Why are you wearing the bloody coat and the hat?" And it was part of our identity,
I'm
Pieman,
not
from
sure.
our logo.
I'm not sure we should be bowing to peer pressure like that.
It's on the doubles and trebles logo, but with a change in the weather. And last week I was forced into it a little bit because we did a doubles and trebles live from Epsom, where I didn't have the attire. I was at a hotel in the middle of Woking. So yeah, we've gone for the flu. I mean, as you may well have noticed, I have a vast array of random football shirts, and tonight we're in the Illuminous Barcelona shirt. I mean, it makes me look like a football fan, man, but I don't care. I don't care for football. They could wipe football off the map as far as I'm concerned. But the football shirts, nice and comfy when I'm at home, and yeah, that's the attire I go for in the house.
Well, there you go. There's your attire update. Better crack on with the horses then, or people are going to be switching off. I can't wait to see the graph on this video. It'll be whoosh about the 2-minute mark. Well, there we go. We'll crack on anyway. And yeah, I mean, give us a little bit of background on the race first, I suppose.
Yeah, so you've covered it really well in the introduction there, Pieman. The first place to start really is this. I have this down from an anti-post perspective as a 3-year-old race, and I talk about these little rules and these little strategies I follow that are sometimes to my detriment, and this has been in recent years. But I've got this down as a 3-year-old race quite simply because 18 of the last 27 renewals of this race have been won by a 3-year-old, male or female, but they've definitely been 3. So that's my first port of call whenever I'm looking at the race. I did go through a period quite recently where I refused to back any horse that was not age 3. But like I say, it was costing me money, given that 4 of the last 5 have been won by older horses, the likes of Enable, Wild Geese, Trev, etc. They were all older horses. But the reason for 3-year-olds winning more often than not is quite simple. Touched on this on other videos, and as you get clashes of the generation, so a 3-year-old is classed as one generation and then the older horses are another, the 3-year-olds simply carry less weight than the older horses. This is due to the long-standing and widely accepted process that's in place called the weight for age scale. So the weight for age scale, which is, like I say, is accepted across European flat racing and elsewhere as well, works on the assumption that an older horse, a 4 or 5-year-old horse, is more mature and thus better, a better athlete than a 3-year-old horse. Sometimes that's proven correct, sometimes it isn't. So, for example, in the ARC itself, and what I would say, sorry, before we move on, the weight for age scale, it's called a scale because as the season goes on and 3-year-olds get older, and they, at the start of the season they're more closer to being a 2-year-old, and at the end obviously they're closer to being a 4-year-old. As the year moves on, the weight disparity between a 3-year-old and an older horse gets smaller and smaller, so it gets less, if you like, because as the year goes on, obviously a 3-year-old and others are developing. Anyway, in the ARC, a 3-year-old filly, a female horse of 3 years old, like what Enable was in 2017, will carry 8 stone 9. A 3-year-old colt will carry 8 stone 13. So that's also takes into account the weight for the sex allowance as well. So there's also the long-standing assumption that male horses, like male athletes, Usain Bolt runs a quicker 100 metres than Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price. So that's also working on the assumption that male horses are more talented and quicker and better than female horses. So there's a £4 difference between a 3-year-old filly and a 3-year-old colt. But the real disparity comes into when you take, for example, a 3-year-old colt carries £8, 8 stone 13. A 4 years or older colt carries 9 stone 5. So that's a difference of £6 there, Pine Man. And a 3-year-old filly, for example, Snowfall, who we're going to come on to, will carry 8 stone 9, and a 4-year-old colt or older, for example, Mishrift, will carry 9 stone 5. So that really is quite a big disparity. That's 10. It's in the region of £10 if I've got my got my maths right. So yeah, that's the first place to start. Some people agree with the weight for age scale, some people don't, but it's been in place that long, Pine Man. It can't be massively biased one way or the other. Sometimes you'll go for a run of having, 5-6 years in a row, a 3-year-old might win this race, but it levels itself out. But like I say, 18 of the last 27 races of the Arc have been won by 3-year-old.
Can I just ask you, how much does the weight for age scale factor in your workouts of this race? Like, is it a massive thing for you?
Yeah, it is massive. It is massive. And that, like I say, that's why that's my anti-post. I would only back a 3-year-old anti-post. Now, I used to also adopt that on the day. Like I say, it's been to my detriment because I'll keep going back to this fact about 18 of the last 27 have been 3-year-olds. That's a good strike rate. But we must remember, there's always two sides to the story. 4 of the last 5 winners have been non-3-year-olds. So only 1 of the last 5 have been a 3-year-old, if you like. So I've had to adapt my ways over time. But yeah, my first port of call again this year and in this video will be the 3-year-olds. But as normal, Pine Man, we'll be running through the market from starting with the top contenders. I mean, we're nearly 4 months away from the race. It takes place in the first week of October in Paris. There's plenty to happen between now and then. But I do say this is a good time to look at the race because the earlier you get on, the better the value. There's probably 100 horses that could possibly run in this race, but only 20 will turn up on the day. We have got the Derby and the Oaks in the bag. The French Derby's in the bag.
I was going to say to you, the Derby and the Oaks, there's quite a few winners that have come out of that have gone.
Absolutely. So recent Epsom, Derby or Oaks winners to have won the Arc include Enable 2017 year, then won it again in 2018. Golden Horn 2015. See the Stars, I think, was 2009. Workforce 2010 won the Derby and the Arc. So the list goes on. So like I say, this is a perfect opportunity. What I would say at this time is that another key trial that hasn't taken place, or a key factor on this race, is a race called the Prix de Diane, which takes place at Longchamp. So that could be called the French Oaks, but really it's a 10 furlong race. That's probably for another day. But that takes place on the 20th of June. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. The winner of that is sure to have an impact on this market.
Just after Ascot, isn't it? I think that is.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the Sunday. So Ascot finishes on the Saturday. The Diane's on the Sunday. Yeah. But before we go through the potential runners, what I would say is the Arc at this stage, and you could say this every year. If all the top contenders that are in this market now show up, it will be the race of the century. You could say that every year. But as always, things don't always work out. Whether that be the ground in Paris in early October isn't going to be like Ascot in the middle of June. Injuries, other options, etc. So that's the word of warning there. But that is caveated into the prices and into my selections.
Yeah, such is the nature of the anti-post previews that, some of these horses that we discuss, if you're watching this in September, they may not be in the market anymore. They may not be in the race anymore. We always try and get updated videos out. So if you are watching this and a little bit of time has passed, do check the description. There may be a more relevant video for you to watch. If there's not one already, there'll certainly be one on the way. So let's dive in then. We'll start at the top of the market like we usually do, and it's a market that's had quite a serious shake-up recently after the Oaks and Derby and the French Derby taking place across the same weekend. But we start with Snowfall.
Yeah, I mean, Snowfall, what can you say? She was just won the Oaks by 16 lengths, which I believe is an all-time record for either the Derby or the Oaks at the Classics at Epsom. Stunning, absolutely stunning performance. To me, she looked the winner. Like you'll hear people say, "Oh, she looked the winner a mile out." Well, this horse actually did look the winner about 6 furlongs away from home. Frankie Dettori, I said this on our video the other day. Frankie Dettori in a classic, a Group 1 classic, was taking up all at the 3 furlong pole. He was having a look round. He was going that well. He's won by 16 lengths. I mean, obviously, I and most other people thought it was an amazing performance, but almost too good to be true. A little bit, Pie Man. The form will need to be backed up by Snowfall herself and some of those that beat her to add some context and some strength to the form. I did say before the Oaks that I didn't think it was a great renewal. It may turn out that way. As an example, Enable, when she won the 2017 Oaks, I think it was by 4 lengths, certainly wasn't 16 lengths. She had a Racing Post rating of 123. Snowfall, following her Oaks win, has a Racing Post rating of 123. So they're exactly the same. After Epsom, so literally this time, the same time we're talking, after Epsom Enable's year, she was 12 to 1 for the Arc. Snowfall is 5 to 1 for the Arc. So there's a story for you. She's between 4 and 5 to 1. There's one place at 11 to 2. That'll probably be gone by the time you're watching this. So there's a story to be had there. But yeah, 16 length winner of a classic. She's getting all the fillies allowance as we've mentioned. Up to a stone in hand. She's a definite contender. Obviously, staged the trip, bred for the job. I mean that goes without saying with another Coolmore / Aidan O'Brien horse. Won't mind the soft ground at Longchamp in October. It was good to soft, and it had been raining all day. I can vouch for it. I was there at Epsom. It was pretty horrible conditions. She wouldn't have the sexy profile like some of the O'Brien runners. She had 7 runs as a juvenile and only won a maiden, I think. But she was pitched in at some of the top races. She's turned up at York first time up this year. Won quite easily there. Probably it was underestimated by me, to be honest. She's won by 4.5 lengths at York. I really should have took that more seriously than I did. Then she's turned up at Epsom and won by 16 lengths. Yeah, she's. I wouldn't say she's the rightful fav. I think 4-5 to 1 is probably too short at this stage. We are in early June. There's a lot to happen between now and then. But if she turns up, an absolute definite contender. And the way they've been talking, it looks like she will be aimed, possibly the Irish Oaks, possibly the Yorkshire Oaks, then over to Longchamp. So yeah, you wouldn't argue with her at this stage.
No, and I mean we talk about 4-5 to 1 looking a bit short, but it's all pricing context as well, isn't it? I mean, like you get a little bit close to race there, she's definitely going. That form's been backed up. There's no way she's going to be 4-5 to 1. So, these are the caveats you have to add into an anti-post market, and I think you can definitely see why she's at the top end. You can definitely see why she'll have her supporters. I mean, you only have to watch that replay from Epsom to see what the appeal is. But we move on to a horse in the market. I'm not really sure about. I'm hoping you're going to clear things up for me. Love. I mean, is she even going to go to this race?
No, that's the conclusion. I mean, we could do 10 seconds on Love because she didn't run at Longchamp last year when she was the hot favourite. She lit up the season last year. She was clearly the best 3-year-old filly in 2020. She won the 1,000 guineas by 4 lengths. She won the Oaks by a similar, if not more, distance. She was favourite for the Arc after that Oaks win and stayed favourite all the way into the late September. And then, lo and behold, heavy ground came up at Longchamp. And she was withdrawn, officially said that she wasn't going to run about a week before the race. No surprise there. She wants good or better ground. Like I say, I'm going to probably repeat myself again. Paris in early October, you're not likely to have quick ground. Love needs quick ground. They're on record of saying she needs quick ground. So the same scenario is probably odds on to happen again this year. She's 7 to 1. She's between 5 and 7 to 1 in the market. Before Snowfall did her demolition job at Epsom, Love was the outright favourite. I think that's completely wrong. She's the wrong favourite. She's going to have to carry £7 more this year in comparison to last year, even though she didn't run. But as an example, she doesn't get the 3-year-old allowances anymore because she's 4. And actually, Pie Man, Love, we're on June the 8th. Love has not been seen this season. So there's you wouldn't get a massive price from me as a special whether Love runs ever again, to be quite honest with you. So they're on about maybe not. There was on about taking her to Epsom, that didn't happen. Then there was on about taking her to Royal Ascot, that looks unlikely to happen. She might be staying at home. So she's the wrong favourite. I can tell why she's in at that price, Pie Man, because she's a very, very, very talented filly and was great last year. So you wouldn't do anything daft like put her in at 20 to 1. But really, if you look on the exchange, she'd be a lot bigger than 7 because the likelihood she isn't going to run. But the bookmakers can't take that risk.
No, that's that one cleared up then. And yeah, you're right. I mean, they couldn't put her in any bigger, that's for sure. But I mean, you just couldn't be having her as a punter, could you? So we'll move on then. Mishrift 9 to 1, an interesting contender.
Yeah, Globetrotter, Mishrift, the highest rated middle distance horse in Europe. Snowfall might have something to say about that after last week. Um, and this is going to be a little bit of a theme on the next two, but we'll start with Mishrift. This horse, Mishrift, should have ran in the Arc last year, and it would have had a great chance of winning it, but didn't. They ended up, and Gosden's done this a couple of times previously. Cracksman being one example. Mishrift, very talented, but he ended up not going to the Arc, and then instead they said, "Oh, we'll go to the Arc next year." Why would anyone who owns or trains a 3-year-old say we're going to wait till next year? They said that with Cracksman. It's ridiculous because you, like say, Pyman, you're giving them weight allowances away, and a year is a long time for a racehorse, especially a flat racehorse. They don't hang around all that long. They're fragile beings. I just think it was nuts. They said they was going to prefer to go to Ascot over for a 10 furlong race, the Champion Stakes at Ascot, and he bombed out. It was absolutely terrible. And I'm talking from my pocket because I backed him that day. I thought it was a certainty, and he got absolutely bashed. But he has got a really interesting profile, Mishriff. He has won on heavy, he's won on good to firm, he's won on dirt. He's already had a lucrative season really this year. He's had 2 races earlier this year, February and March, in Saudi Arabia and Meydan. Won both, looking pretty much better than ever in doing so. If he turns up at the Arc, he's got a great chance, but you can't rely on him turning up. But at least the ground isn't a question with Mishriff. He would have a great chance, but like I say, he's ground versatile, trip versatile, leading contender. But can you rely on him, given that he didn't run last year and shouldn't? I mean, and last year's renewal, Pyman, the 2020 renewal wasn't that great. It really wasn't that great. Mishriff, it's one of them. You never know, but if he'd have ran last year, I'm sure he would have gone close. And similar comments are going to apply to the next horse that you're going to introduce me to, I reckon, Pyman.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, talking to horses that should have run in last year's race, I think Tana, however you're saying that, is definitely one that should have gone last year as well.
Well, Tana was just a tease, to be honest. So, owned by the Aga Khan, which is the green colours that Shergar ran in. You don't see as many of those runners in this country in those colours, but it's quite prominent in France, given that's where he's based. But yeah, frankly, should and would have probably, alongside Mishriff, won the Arc last year if Dermot Weld and the owner, the Aga Khan, were a bit more ambitious. But it was a tease, Pyman. You get this at Cheltenham, you'll know the feeling. Instead of running in the Arc, they ran in another race at Longchamp on the same day as the Arc, called the Prix de l'Opera, which is for female horses over 10 furlongs, and she won that instead. It was by a short margin, but it was what she was worth more than what it looked on the day. She then cemented herself right at the top table of horse racing globally when she went over to the Breeders' Cup turf and beat a horse called Magical there. And Magical, retired now, but was and is a magical horse by name and by nature. Tanawa went over there and beat her, with a bit of ease in the Breeders' Cup. Since that day, she has been, right up there in the market for the Arc. She's another like Love who's not been seen this year, but I don't mind it because the noises have been different. The noises about Tanawa, basically the day that she won at the Breeders' Cup over in America, was next year it's all about the Arc. She'll be a 5-year-old this year round. And it's actually, I'm no expert on the Aga Khan horses and the way that he runs his business, but it's very rare, I'm told, that that operation and that ownership keep a female horse in training beyond 3 years old. Never mind 4, never mind 5. So it was a surprise she was still in training last year, and it was proven right because she won 2 Group 1s. And now she's in training again this year for one reason and one reason only, and that is to win and run in the Arc. The same comments can't be said about someone like Love, for example. So like I say, all roads are leading to Paris. I'll certainly prefer her to Love, absolutely no question. I think she should be favourite to Narwa. When I was writing these notes yesterday, literally within 24 hours, she was best priced 10 to 1. I very much doubt that my £10 at 10 to 1 with a certain supplier yesterday has changed the market because they've cut her into 9. But I'm gonna say it's all down to me. But she's 9 to 1. I would still absolutely back her now. I think Tanar was the, because half the thing is, Pyman, that you've got to get your horse there. I know they can all say they want to go to the Arc, but there's other things that other targets in between that are there to be taken and are risky in terms of fitness or injuries. Tanar is nailed on. She is nailed on. If fit and well, will run in this race. The same comments can't really apply. They definitely can't apply to Love. They might not apply to Mishrift, and Snowfall could get beat again, by them anyway, because we don't know if that form backs up. She's guaranteed to run if fit. She's guaranteed to get any ground because she won on. It was pretty soft last year when she won loves the course. Look, I just think it's one of the most confident anti-post pointers we have or could give, to be honest, Paiman, with Tanawa.
Well, that's what the people want to see, a convincing case laid out for Tanawa there. And certainly get the attention of the viewers with that one, I think. But next in the market is another horse we've heard a lot of recently. They are the Derby winner, 10-1. Tell us a little bit more about that one.
Well, he's just won the Derby by 4.5 lengths, Pieman. I said that earlier. I think 3 of the last 11 or 12 winners have been Derby winners. He's 10-1 in the market. You can't really argue. He's certainly a contender. He's got to be. Charlie Appleby, since he's won the Derby, firstly said that before the Derby, i.e. about a week ago, they thought he was more of a staying horse, and he was actually siding with not running him in the Derby at all. But the owner said run him in the Derby. He's won the Derby. The St. Leger is on the agenda. That is over a trip a bit further than the Derby and the Arc. Derby and Arc are 1.5 miles. St. Leger's 1.6 miles. So he's bred to stay, definitely. He showed that in the Derby, stayed on really well. I mean, like I say, the facts are he's just won a Derby by 4.5 lengths. I mean, you don't really need to say much more than that about a horse with Arc credentials. So the Arc looks to be on the agenda. I thought, and I said to you beforehand, I thought it was a good standard Derby beforehand, but it didn't quite work out really that way in reality, Pieman.
No, a couple of the bigger names didn't run the race, did they really?
Bolshoi Ballet was disappointing, but was struck into and had quite a nasty cut on his leg, so that could be reason for that. Even if you give Bolshoi Ballet an excuse, John Leaper was 3rd or 4th favourite in the market. He was massively underperformed, really disappointing. And Muharfef, who was I think 2nd or 3rd favourite, didn't even run. So there is questions in the form. Plus, the second was a 50-1 shot that was a maiden, i.e. had never ran a race, never won a race in 2 starts. And he's finished 2nd in the Derby. So that clearly puts question marks on the Derby form. Like the Oaks, but for different reasons, the form needs testing in the coming months by the winner and some of those behind him. So we'll keep an eye on the form of Adayar, but he might go and win again. He might go to the Irish Derby, win again. He could even run in the St. Leger and the Arc. There's horses that do that almost every season. So that 10-1 looks solid, but it wouldn't be something I could advise at this stage.
No, definitely an interesting runner, but you're right, that form has got a bit of a shaky look to it for a Derby, and I just want to see a little bit more before going wild on a day out. But I think if we move it on, I mean, the Japanese are always playing a feature in this. They're desperately trying to win the Arc every year. There seems to be a different contender that comes over, and there's a bit of talk and normally a bit of money floating around here at the time. But it's certainly not through a lack of training or a lack of trying that they haven't yet had this Arc win. But do they have any major contenders this year in your book?
Yeah, well, always at this stage, man, the Japanese have some, under 20-1-ish in with a chance. The next Japanese hope, but I don't think that they normally turn up with 1 or 2 winners. They've been Deep Impact was famously 2nd when sent off odds on, because the Japanese absolutely piled into it. There was a horse, I've forgot the blooming name now. There's a horse one year in the same colours, 2011 or 12, when I first went to the Arc. There's a horse called Solly Mayer won it, a 40-1 shot in horrible conditions, and that day Orfevre, right, Japanese horse, went about 5 lengths clear in the straight, and the crowd went wild. There's loads of Japanese there. There's a famous video on YouTube where they're celebrating because he's gone 5 lengths clear. He's going to win the Arc. And
yeah,
this French no-oper that's basically never won a race or never won a race since, Solly Mayer, from just nowhere, not considered by anyone. Should have been a lot bigger than 40-1 given her profile. Yeah, just won on the day. Another 3-year-old filly with the allowances. So, yeah, it's not through lack of trying. They've got a couple of contenders this year. I'm no expert on Japanese form, I will say that. Contrary, but it does add it adds a good... it adds a bit of spice to the race, because you've got the European, the British, and the Irish.
Well, it's part of the fun of such a race, isn't it? Trying to mix and match this form, work out what's worth what.
Yeah, that's it. So they've got a couple. So Conteo is a 4-time Grade 1 winner. Pretty outstanding record, really. 8 runs, 6 wins, 1 second and 1 third. I mean, you can't really argue with that. He'd be very interesting if turning up. The one I would prefer of the Japanese, if I had to back one at the moment, Chronogenesis. 22-1, is a year older than Contrail, but has a bit more substance to her form. She ran against Mishrift in Maidan in March, in one of the good races in Maidan. I know I underwrite the Maidan form, but what I would say is the form of Dubai World Cup night itself, the richest night, or the richest fixture, or richest day of racing. I take that seriously. The other carnival races, if you like, I do question. Chronogenesis ran in that against Mishrift and only got beaten ahead. She did very, very little wrong. She got bumped coming into the straight, which clearly didn't help. I think that's really quite good form. And the fact that she hasn't ran again since Maidan in late March suggests that they might be delaying her start to the Japanese season, if the Japanese season proper, if you like, with a view to the Arc. So what I would say about the Japanese runners, they normally run on Arc Trials Day. So Arc Trials Day is about 3 weeks before the big day, and there's 3 races split. One for 3-year-olds, one for the females, one for the male. They normally turn up there, so that gives you a good idea. But yeah, if turning up on the day as a Japanese runner, she would certainly interest me. But she's 22 to 1 at this stage for Chronogenesis. I can't advise backing her, given that they might not come over, whatever, especially with COVID. But yeah, one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, certainly a very interesting runner, and it's always worth keeping an eye on these Japanese runners, because you can guarantee one of them will get a bit of momentum behind them in the market when they work out which is the best chance. And while we're still waiting for that first winner, certainly it feels like a matter of when, not if, that Japan will have an Arc winner. Such is the passion for the sport over there, and they keep trying. And they've produced plenty of quality horses, as you say, a couple of hard luck stories as well. So it seems like a matter of time. And Chronogenesis there, 22 to 1, interesting runner. Are there any other bigger prices that we should be noting at this time? I think we've covered the main names, but there's always someone at bigger prices.
Yeah, I think there's a couple that caught the eye in the French Derby. I can't really be called a French Derby because it's over 10 furlongs. Took place about 24 hours, the proper English Derby, but 19 runners on soft ground, so we were almost guaranteed a messy race because there's a couple of there's a full straight, a couple of bends at Shanti, etc. So there was a couple in there. Millie Bosque is one to take out of it for me. He had to switch around horses at a key part of the race. Bit of an eye catcher, closing at the finish. He's not even priced up on Oddschecker or Betfair, so that gives you an idea of what kind of price it would be if he was included. That one's called Millie Bosque. Another just behind him in that race, and a bit more fancied, got a bit better profile. Cheshire Academy was 4th in the French Derby. He's 25 to 1 for the Arc. I wouldn't put anyone off that personally. He has a more obvious profile than Millie Bosque because he's trained by Jean-Claude Rouget. He's one of the top trainers over there. So they were 2 in the French Derby. We mentioned the Prix de Diane, the female version of that race, 10 furlongs, 20th of June. Like I say, the winner of that's likely to go near the top of this market. 2 that could well run in the Diane, but could be worth taking for the Arc at big prices now, which I know is a strategy you sometimes agree with, Pieman, getting ahead of the curve.
Yeah, thinking a step ahead. Yeah, I think it does good, yeah.
So there's 2. First one being Indigo Girl. She's 50 to 1. Now, we've mentioned this horse in our Guineas preview. She wants soft ground. She's screaming for soft ground. So she could be worth taking at this stage. Yet to be seen this season, but John Gosden's adamant she wants soft ground. Paris is the place to be in October if that's what you want. So yeah, if she runs well in the Diane or wins the Diane, she won't be 50 to 1. Another horse that fits that same profile, Burgerita, trained by Andre Fabre. I mean, he's won the Arc God knows how many times, probably more than anyone. Didn't make a debut until April this year and has quickly rattled off 2 easy enough wins. She's 40 to 1 at this stage. And like I say, a fascinating contender if she turns up in the Diane and wins it on just a 3rd start.
There you go, then a couple to follow in the Prix de Diane. But I think that pretty much wraps us up in terms of contenders to talk about. And I've got a feeling I know where you're going here, but where is your money going as of now, 8th of June 2021? Where is the Arc money value?
It's quite simple. Tanawa at 9 to 1. The Arc is very clearly a target for the whole season. It's the only reason she's still in training. So she's a lot riskier than most of the anti-post bets, particularly 4 months in advance. I mean, it's a long time away. I think she should be favourite. I think she will be favourite when she shows her fitness and her form and she wins an Irish Group 1 or wins one of the Arc Trials. I just think 9 to 1's it's one of them where you can get stuck into and you can just watch it develop as the season goes on because she will run. Like I say, if she's still breathing and well and standing, she'll run. At a bigger price, the bomb sort of price, can I say that, Pieman, or is you that just you?
You can say. You can.
Just mentioned her, Indigo Girl, more than decent 2-year-old form, regally bred from a family that are proven to stay. And it's pretty clear that she's having a French campaign this year. She'll be making the first start in the Prix de Diane. She wants the softer ground. That's what she performs on. So I think 50 to 1 Indigo Girl's too big. They would be the 2 that I'm going to war with at this stage, Pieman.
There you go then. Tanawa at 10 to 1. Well, maybe 9 to 1 now after Adams moved the market. And and Indigo Girl, the bomb at 50 to 1. But certainly enjoyed running through that market. As I said, still 4 months plus till race day. So Going to be plenty of twists, turns, movements if the market has changed. Do check the description. We may have an update for you. I'm sure we'll get one in after there's been a bit of a shake-up in the market after the Prix de Diane and another couple of races. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this. Do let us know who you're backing in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, we've got plenty more racing preview content on our channel. Do subscribe to Doubles and Trebles. Give us a like and a comment with all of your racing thoughts and any feedback. We do golf too. We've got darts on the go as well, and it's constantly growing and developing. So we'd be delighted to have you on board with the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.